friends, and welcome back to another episode of TT Reacts. The other day I posted a handstand and solicited advice here. I received several very nice and useful comments that I feel are making a difference already. That's to focus on more flexibility and core engagement. Someone suggested placing a small board down when practicing on grass. Yes, for sure. Okay, so looking at this video here, this person is clearly strong and balanceful. However, the chest engagement is too much, and they may be lacking in shoulder mobility, which is why people told them to practice flexibility. Because it shouldn't look like this, like what we're seeing in this video. And yeah, it doesn't look like they have very much core engagement. So that's one of the first things you want to work on. And I always encourage people to always prioritize mobility work just in general. It doesn't matter if you're a gym rat, if you're a Pilates queen, if you do handstands, it doesn't really matter. You need to make sure your body is mobile, because if your body is stiff, you can get injured so easily, and people don't understand. Just bending over incorrectly or picking something up off the ground, you can get injured if you're not mobile enough. And if you don't know like proper form and just stuff like that. But just in general, mobility is basic self-care when you think about it. So let's treat our bodies as things that get stiffer over time, because you're not gonna get looser over time. You need to make sure that you're nice and loose, and you can do the things that you want to do, and you can run without getting injured. So yes, I would recommend that to this person. But for the core engagement and just learning how to do the movement in an upright straight position, do these circuit drills here, because you will learn where your feet need to go. Your feet don't need to go here, okay? Your feet shouldn't be like this. And I do want to take this time to talk about the banana arch that everyone frequently talks about. So the banana arch, it's not even necessarily like the back is like arched like that. It's honestly about your foot placement, because your feet really should not be flying back like this. And sure, there are some movements, like if you go like this with your feet, like that wouldn't be a banana arch. But in most of the cases that you see when it comes to the banana arch, their feet are just back too far. But I'm saying that it's possible to have a slight curve in your back and still not have a banana arch. So this person here, they do have a banana arch because their feet are going past their head even in this arched movement. And you usually can tell when someone is making the movement with their hips and their pelvis to keep it tucked under. That's not what we're seeing in this video. This person has zero core activation. They're using their feet to balance, and they're using their chest to hold themselves up. That's not an integral handstand, but if they keep taking the advice that people have been giving them, it should improve. But I do encourage these circuit drills, not only to help you with your form, but to help you with your core engagement and learning how to breathe through these tough and difficult movements. How's my form? How's your form? It's interesting. Okay, so something that I don't like when people go up into a handstand is when your head placement seems to go from looking this way to looking like behind. When you're looking down if you start off looking down at the ground, and then when you go in the handstand, you can see behind you, that's how I know your form is not very good. Some people, they can master this move here, but the tucking of the head and having your chin upward and the top of your head downward, I don't think that allows for most beginners to learn how to breathe through this difficult movement while still engaging their muscles and doing everything they need to do. We have to think about where the correct positioning of our head is in terms of our bodily anatomy. No, we have to think in terms of our anatomy and just what allows us to breathe the easiest when we're doing exercises. And I'm telling you, it's not with our head down below. The last person I saw that was doing this movement here and tucking her head very low, she said she was seeing stars and it was hard to breathe and it was very difficult. Yes, because that's not the correct placement of your head in the movement. Now, if you would have moved your head up and moved it around, you would have been able to find that spot. The issue that I'm finding is people will start with their head in the right spot where they can breathe enough and breathe correctly and get the maximum airflow into their bodies. But then people in the group will go and start talking to them and say, hey, your head is just up too high. You need to start practicing with your head lower. And now, boom, you can't breathe in the handstand. So I think that we need to stop letting people speak to us when we're doing these movements who only care about the aesthetic portion. We have to also take our health into consideration when we're doing such extreme movements. A handstand is not like doing a jumping jack. A handstand is serious work. You're literally upside down, and if you do it wrong, you can have blood rushing to your head. You could pass out. I mean, there's a lot of things that could happen. So we have to make sure that our head is in this spot where we can breathe the most. Now, if that means you cannot have a straight handstand the way that people try to tell you you have to have, then that's fine, because not everyone's body is the same. But I'm telling you right now, most people cannot do a handstand for more than 10 seconds with their chin up like this and the bottom of the top of their head right here. It just doesn't make any logical sense. There's going to be blood rushing your head, and you have to be able to breathe through this movement. So I think he needs to fix his head placement, engage his core, and do the circuit drills. That's basically what I recommend for this person here. Next video. Form check. What should I be focusing on? Okay. Okay. Let me see here. So this person, I don't know if this is the way that they are built or what, because I analyzed the way that they kicked up. I do like the way they kicked up. Their core is engaged. However, it does still look a little bit arched. So I think that's just the way that this person's body is. He's using a lot of chest. And his head looks okay. But you do have to be extra careful in this movement to not let your lower back overextend. Let me read the comments of what people are saying. Stop playing with your legs and focus on stacking, as many of us have a serious case of banana handstand. Well, this person doesn't have a banana handstand, but when he's doing the tricks, I think he may be overextending his back. Yep, so basically everyone's giving the same advice. It's the same stuff, different day, different video. Though I do agree with them to maybe work on the shoulder flexibility a little bit more. But in this case, it's not going to make a huge difference in terms of his spine, because some people's bodies are just built that way. You can't always suck your ribs in to make it so straight. Like, it's just not natural. It does sound natural, and when you think about it, to have a straight spine like this. But when you think about when you go and kick up into the handstand, your natural placement of your feet and the way your body looks does not look perfectly straight. That's something you have to put serious effort into to achieve, which good for you if you were able to achieve the straight handstand. I think it looks pretty cool. But to act like that's the standard that everyone needs to work toward, I think is condescending and quite dangerous, because the things that people are doing to achieve this straight handstand are unsafe, as I've been mentioning with the head placement. And I don't necessarily think there's anything dangerous about sucking your ribs in and doing all that. But I do think it's unnatural and unnecessary if you don't hope to have a straight handstand. So for people to comment, oh, you need to suck your ribs in, you need to put your head down, you need to focus on stacking perfectly so it can be straighter. A straight handstand is not everyone's goal. Some people simply just want to hold a handstand safely and be able to do certain things. It doesn't have to look perfectly straight. In fact, most advanced people I see do not have the aesthetically straight handstand. However, these straight handstand gurus are taking over a lot of these groups and acting like everyone has to have a perfectly straight line. But if you're a beginner, I would not encourage prioritizing the straight line when you're first learning. I think you should just learn the handstand in the best and safest way possible for you. And then if you want to, once you're advanced, get a straight handstand, you can always modify your form. In fact, I change my form frequently depending on how I'm feeling, what I'm doing. It's constantly changing, but the straight handstand is not necessary, especially not in the beginning, to be focusing on it so fully to where you're restricting your airflow. You can't, you know what I mean? There's just a lot of things that are encouraged that are not safe. So if you're just starting out, just focus on doing it safely. And people who keep pushing the straight handstand, let's focus on safety first, and then the straightness can come later. But yes, this person, his handstand, it looks okay. I think that practicing to tuck your pelvis under a lot more will help you to more stably hold this movement up, because in order to do some of the tricks that he's doing, he did have to arch his back slightly, and I already know from experience it's quite painful. So we don't want that. And yes, do your mobility before and or after your workouts. I would say before, but it doesn't really make a huge difference. So yes, that's what I recommend for this person. Alrighty friends, that was the last video. Thank you so much for tuning in. And if you like the video, go ahead and like it and subscribe. And if you would like your video to be featured, go ahead and send it to this email right here, and you may see it in an upcoming video. But until next time, ciao.